They fired me after 15 loyal years without warning. But they had no idea I'd quietly collected every dirty secret, every fake invoice, every offshore deal. I wasn't just a worker, I was their reckoning. I started working at Halston and Pierce Technologies in the fall of 2008. I was 32, recently laid off from a smaller logistics firm that went under during the recession. I had a mortgage, a wife, and a 6-year-old daughter. I didn't have the luxury of waiting for the perfect job. Halston wasn't glamorous, but it was stable. They gave me a desk in the back of the building, near the server room, and a title that didn't mean much, Inventory Systems Coordinator. I didn't care. I just needed a paycheck. The first few years were quiet. I kept to myself, did my job, and avoided office politics. My role was simple: track shipments, reconcile inventory, and make sure the internal database matched what was physically in the warehouse. I didn't ask for promotions. I didn't complain. I showed up early, stayed late, and never missed a deadline. I became part of the furniture, reliable, invisible, and forgotten. By 2012, I knew the company's logistics system better than anyone. When they upgraded to a new platform in 2013, I was the only one who didn't struggle. I ended up helping the IT team troubleshoot bugs, even though it wasn't in my job description. That's when I got limited access to the back end. Not full admin rights, but enough to see how things were wired. I didn't think much of it at the time. I just wanted to make sure my reports didn't break. Over time, I started noticing things. Small discrepancies. Vendor payments that didn't match the services rendered. Internal memos that contradicted public statements. I didn't say anything. I wasn't trying to stir the pot. I just started keeping notes. Not because I planned to use them, but because I didn't trust the people running the place. There were patterns, expenses that didn't add up, transfers that bypassed approval chains, and invoices from companies that didn't seem to exist. In 2016, I started backing up everything. Emails, spreadsheets, logs. I encrypted the files and stored them off-site. I wasn't sure why. Maybe I just wanted to be prepared. Maybe I was paranoid. But I kept collecting. I didn't tell anyone. Not my wife, not my coworkers. It was just something I did quietly in the background. Then came the leadership change in 2019. The board brought in a new CEO, Mark Ellison. He was young, sharp, and ruthless. Within 6 months, he'd laid off 3 departments, outsourced half the operations, and slashed benefits. The culture changed overnight. People stopped talking in the break room. Everyone was scared. I survived the purge, probably because no one remembered what I did. That suited me fine. But the discrepancies got worse. I saw invoices for services that didn't exist, payments to shell companies, and internal transfers that bypassed standard approval chains. I wasn't a whistleblower. I didn't want trouble. But I kept backing up everything. I started organizing the files, by year, by department, by type of fraud. I created cross-references, timelines, and summaries. I didn't know what I was building. I just knew it was important. In 2021, I found something big. A series of internal memos detailing a partnership with a vendor that didn't exist. The payments were real, millions of dollars over 2 years, but the services were fabricated. I traced the money to offshore accounts. I found connections to board members. I found emails that hinted at blackmail, political donations, and insider deals. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't a journalist. I was just a guy in logistics. I kept quiet. I kept working. I kept collecting. I figured maybe one day I'd need it. Maybe one day someone would ask the right question. But no one did. No one ever does. Then came March 2023. I was called into HR. No warning. No explanation. Just a printed letter stating my position had been eliminated due to restructuring. 15 years, gone in 5 minutes. No severance, no thank you, nothing. I asked if I could speak to Mark. They said he was unavailable. I asked what would happen to my department. They said it was being absorbed into another team. I walked out with a cardboard box and a bitter taste in my mouth. I didn't tell anyone what I had. Not yet. I went home, sat in my garage, and stared at the box. Inside were a few pens, a stapler, and a framed photo of my daughter from when she was 10. She's 20 now, in college. I hadn't told her yet. Didn't want her to worry. That night, I opened the drives. Reviewed everything. 15 years of data, emails, spreadsheets, memos, logs. I had proof of fraud, embezzlement, and insider deals. I had timestamps, signatures, and routing numbers. I didn't care about revenge. I cared about truth. I spent the next week researching. Found a nonprofit that specialized in corporate accountability. Sent them an anonymous tip with a sample of the data. They responded within hours. Asked for more. I gave it to them. They said it was explosive. Said it could lead to federal investigations. I didn't want credit. I wanted closure. A month later, the story broke. National headlines. Halston and Pierce under investigation. Mark Ellison subpoenaed. The board scrambling. I watched it unfold from my living room. No one knew it was me. I didn't want recognition. I wanted peace. But here's the thing, they still don't know what I know. The drives I gave them? That was just the surface. I kept the deeper files. The ones that show how far it really goes. Offshore accounts. Political donations. Blackmail. I'm not sure what I'll do with them. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. I've started sleeping better. Not because I got justice, but because I proved to myself that being invisible doesn't mean being powerless. They thought I was just a quiet guy in logistics. But I was the one watching, the one listening, the one who knew. After the investigation started, I kept a low profile. I didn't reach out to anyone from the company. I didn't talk to the press. I didn't even tell my daughter. She was busy with finals and I didn't want to distract her. I watched the news quietly, read the articles, and tracked the fallout. Mark Ellison denied everything, of course. Said the documents were fabricated. Said it was a smear campaign. But the evidence was too solid. The nonprofit I'd contacted had lawyers, forensic analysts, and connections in Washington. They knew how to build a case. Within weeks, subpoenas were flying. The board tried to distance themselves. Several executives resigned. The stock tanked. Employees started leaking more documents. It was like a dam had broken. I wasn't the only one who'd been watching. I was just the first to act. I got a call from a reporter in May. She said she'd received an anonymous tip and wanted to verify some details. I told her I couldn't help. She asked if I was the source. I said no. She didn't press. I think she knew. But she respected the silence. Around that time, I started getting emails from former coworkers. Most were just checking in, trying to make sense of what was happening. A few asked if I knew anything. I didn't respond. I didn't want to lie, but I wasn't ready to talk. One guy, Tom, from procurement, said he'd always suspected something was off. Said he remembered me asking questions years ago. I told him I was just doing my job. By June, the company was in freefall. Federal investigators raided the headquarters. Servers were seized. Executives were questioned. Mark Ellison disappeared for a while. Some said he was in Europe, others said he was negotiating immunity. I didn't care. I wasn't after him. I was after the truth. I started reviewing the deeper files. The ones I hadn't shared. They were darker. More personal. Emails between board members discussing how to silence whistleblowers. Internal memos about manipulating audits. Financial records showing payments to politicians. I found one document that detailed a plan to shut down a department purely to eliminate a problematic employee. The name wasn't mine, but the tactic was familiar. I thought about going public. Thought about writing a book, or giving an interview. But I didn't want the attention. I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to be left alone. So I kept the files. Locked them away. Maybe one day I'll release them. Maybe I won't. In July, I got a letter from the nonprofit. They thanked me for my contribution. Said my evidence had been critical. They didn't ask for my name. Didn't try to trace me. Just acknowledged the impact. That meant more to me than any headline. I started walking more. Sleeping better. I fixed up the garage, cleaned out the attic, and planted a small garden in the backyard. My daughter came home for the summer and asked if I was okay. I told her I was. She didn't press. She's smart. She knows when not to ask. One night, we sat on the porch and watched the sunset. She asked me what I'd do next. I said I didn't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. She laughed and said that sounded like something out of a movie. I smiled. I didn't tell her that I'd been living a quiet thriller for years. In August, I got a call from a lawyer. Said he was representing a group of shareholders. Said they were building a civil case and wanted to know if I had more evidence. I told him I'd think about it. He gave me his number. I haven't called back. I'm not sure what justice looks like. I'm not sure it even exists in the way people imagine. But I know what truth looks like. I've seen it. I've held it in my hands. And I know what silence feels like. It's heavy, but it's clean. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if they hadn't fired me. If I just kept working, kept collecting, kept watching. Maybe I'd still be there, invisible and forgotten. Maybe I'd still be waiting for someone to notice. But they did fire me. Without warning. Without respect. And that was their mistake. Because I wasn't just a quiet guy in logistics. I was the one who knew. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this.